What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the market moving forward, as we have important data coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, not to mention new developments on the charts. But let me just mention that I'm not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice, and don't forget to smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, in my video from yesterday, I mentioned that the market was trying to push a little bit higher, and SPY ended up coming to our target. I said SPY is going to reach 554 to 555, and that's what ended up happening. Then I said that once we hit that resistance, watch what kind of reaction we get. The last time we hit that, we got a big rejection. So would we break through that to continue higher, or would we see a little rejection? I told you to watch for that very carefully. So far, SPY is starting to reject a bit, but we need confirmation. I just want to call out that we still have a possible inverse head and shoulders like structure developing on SPY. We could just be getting a dip just to go higher later on. That looks very probable so far, but watch your levels just to be safe. Now, today, we got some building permits data. This is showing a little bit of weakness in the housing data, at least for now, but not that bad. It's not really enough to really cause a huge move like unemployment data, in my opinion. So it's not as important as that, but it still caused something. And then finally at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's going to be 30 minutes after the market opens, are the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Reports, the 5-year inflationary expectations, and the current conditions reports. So all this data is going to be very important. We'll see if this leads to a bounce in the markets or if the market gets a negative reaction. So look for volatility at 10 o'clock a.m. On top of this, I just want to mention that there's been some big news that's coming out involving the markets. We saw a very, very nice push yesterday, only for the market to approach resistance. Now we're starting to see a little dip. We'll see if that ends up holding. Consumer spending was still decent last month, but the question is, will this last? Despite what we're seeing, at least so far, with other items. So I just want to call that out, especially as we just got retail earnings. And finally, there's been a big deal for Peacock as they closed the deal with the NBA, which is good news for them. Anyways, two more things about the market. I just want to mention that SPY has about 780,000 of these calls expiring and over 2.4 million puts expiring. We have 536 as max pain with a put to call ratio of about 3.05. Just wanted to call that out, so keep that in the back of your guys' minds. Also, I just want to note that when it comes to the Fed's target probabilities, there's a 70.5% chance we get a 25 basis point cut, 30% chance of getting a 50 basis point cut as well. That's how the market's seeing things. So what do I see for the markets? It's very simple. On SPY, the question is, are we about to see a big bounce, or are we about to be forming an inverse head and shoulders where we have a left shoulder here, a head and then right shoulder forming? This depends. We have this tough resistance around 554 to 555. If we truly do get this big rejection, I'd be looking for basically the support right here around 549.5. If that fails us, we'll be dipping all the way down, in my opinion, towards 544. So if you look at the daily, for example, if we lose support right here on the daily around this 549.5 area, we could fill the gap all the way down towards the 544 zone. So just be careful if we end up losing that support. And if we hold 549.5, we could try to rebound and continue higher back up to 554. So we'll be watching 549.5 as key support. That's going to be our gap support. If we lose that, I think SPY is going to be dipping lower to at least this 20 EMA. And if we hold 549.5, we could try to rebound and continue higher. So watch that as key support. And we'll see what kind of reaction we get. I can't give you 100% accurate predictions until we see this data. So we just have to wait and see what happens with that. But just note there is that risk of downside if we lose key support. Now, the inverse head and shoulders also exists possibly on ES. Notice that we have resistance near 55.80, and we have this support right here, previous resistance becoming support around 55.30. And if that breaks, we'd be looking for basically 5,500 flats. So we have this potential left shoulder here. We have a head right here, and then potentially a right shoulder that could be forming. There's going to be a risk of us dipping lower towards 5,530, followed by the 5,500 area. So we'll see if we end up holding support or not. We're testing a previous resistance becoming support right now. So if we lose this support at 55.35, I do see a risk of us coming down to our 20 EMA towards 5,500 flat. And this could be forming an inverse head and shoulders. So we have like a left shoulder head, maybe even a right shoulder forming. So we'll see. This is going to be very important. So look and see if we get a little bit of a dip, and then we'll see if we get a bounce or not from there. For SPX, we're trying to push higher towards this resistance around 55.60. If we reject here, we'll be looking at support at 5,500 flat. If we lose that, this could fill the gap down before it tries to bounce again. The inverse head and shoulders also exist on SPX, so we'll see what kind of reaction we get, so watch for that. On Nvda, we have a very similar setup around 121.5 as key support. We're testing previous resistance becoming support. If that fails, I think we're going to be dipping down towards 119. If that fails, look for 116. If we hold 121.5, we could try to rebound and start pushing for 124 again. So look at 124 as resistance and 121.5 as support. If we lose that, there's going to be a bigger dip all the way down to these imbalances. We'll be watching to see if 119 comes, followed by 116. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin's also attempting to rebound, but look at resistance at 59,300. If we reclaim that, look for a bounce for 60,000. If we don't reclaim 59,300, we're going to be dipping back down. So it's pushing a bit. We'll see if we get rejection or not. For Tesla, Tesla is, it's doing a good job. We're basically holding 212 right now. If we lose that, I'd be looking at 210, then 208, and then 205 as three supports. If we hold this, look at resistance around 216 breakdown, we're going back up towards 221. So I think that Tesla's at risk of dipping to at least 210. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. All that's happening is Tesla could be making a higher low. It could just dip a little bit just to continue higher later on for a big push. So don't worry too much about this dip. Do not turn overly bearish. This could just be a little dip before we try to bounce. So watch 212 and see if we retrace to 210. For the QQQ, we're looking at 475 as resistance. We did reject so far. The inverse head and shoulders is existent here. And then if we end up losing 472, look for 470. If 470 breaks, we're going down to 464. Once again, if we get that dip, don't turn overly bearish. This could just be a little dip before another bounce. So just be careful. Market is still doing decent. If we look at Aapl, we have a similar setup. This could be our left shoulder. This could be our head, and we could be forming our right shoulder. We have 225 as resistance. We'll have to see if this rejects. And if we end up losing 223, we'll be dipping back down towards 221. So I do think we're going to be testing 223. We'll see if we bounce on that or not on Aapl. If it does, then I'll be looking at 220, the 20 EMA, around 221, as the next level. So we'll have to wait and see how this ends up going. So be very, very mindful of this, and then we'll see how things end up moving. As far as Supermicro goes, we have this resistance around this 640 area, and we have support around 602. I'm going to be careful with this. We might retrace to about 600. We'll see if that holds. If not, I'll be looking for 580. The IWM is doing the same things, retracing a bit. We need to break past 213 to turn back up towards 215. And if we don't claim or hold above 211, we'll be looking for basically 209. 209 is going to be our next major support right here. So we might be dipping to 209. We'll see if we get a bounce or not. So watch for that as well. For AMD, AMD has resistance around this 148 area, and our main support is going to be down here around 144. I do see risk of dipping down to like 143, and we'll see if we bounce or not. So be very mindful and very patient of that. For Coinbase, if we end up losing basically 197, I see a risk of us dipping all the way down to lower levels, such as 192. If we break past 202, look for a bounce, but this is going to likely test 197. We'll see if it holds or not. For Amazon, we need to reclaim 177 to bounce back up to 180. If we don't hold above 177, I think there's a risk of us coming down to 174. And if 174 does not hold, our next target is going to be 172. So be careful on Amazon. Meta, I called out resistance around 538 to 540. I said to watch it for forming like a cup and handle. We could be forming a cup and handle, but just know that we didn't break resistance. So we got to reclaim at least 534 to turn back up, then eventually 540 or 538, then 540. And if we don't, watch 530 as our support. We're testing 532.5 and 530. If that breaks, look at 525. So we'll see what kind of reaction we get. We could be dipping to 525 first. Microsoft is looking like it might dip a little bit more. We need to try to hold 420 to turn back up. If we don't hold that, we're at risk of dipping a little bit more. So I'll be watching this setup very, very closely. Look at 420. Can we hold that? If we don't hold that, we're at risk of dipping down towards 417.5, then eventually 415. For Google, we want to reclaim 163.3. If we hold above that, we could push. If not, we could reject and start dipping back down to about 161. So we'll give it some time. We'll see how things go from here. That being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Just know that the market has a possible inverse tendencies like structure that could be developing, but SPY has not lost key support to really turn bearish right now. So we're not officially like super bearish. We're just seeing a little bit of a dip from resistance as we tested a tough level yesterday. So we'll see if that ends up holding or not. So make sure you watch your levels and be very, very patient. With that being said, thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys. We'll see if we lose key supports to dip lower. And if we do, don't turn overly bearish. This could just be another trap. I'll see you guys in a few hours, and peace out.